Happy New Year, everybody.
It is a new year.
Yeah, it's 2024. That's when it's coming out.
2024.
We're recording on
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. So, but it's now Thursday when this comes out. We recorded with Maui. It was amazing. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this episode was, it will open up your minds for sure and change the way that you think about healing and the way you talk to yourself and finding your higher being. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a privilege to be able to sit here and listen to him teach us about healing and what works for him and how we can apply that with ourselves. Not too many like warnings or anything to give out. We do talk about, meditation. We talk about self-healing. We talk about some psychedelic stuff towards the end, which is really interesting. We answer some questions from listeners off our internet Facebook page stuff. Thanks for sending those in, by the way. Yeah, I'm excited for this episode. It should be a good one. Before we get into that, though, what I do need you to do is subscribe to the podcast and give us a 5-star review. That helps us immensely. I know we say that all the time, but if you haven't done it yet, and I know a lot of you haven't done it yet because I've seen how many 5-star reviews we have and I see how many listeners we have, and that number is very off. So please, if you are a regular listener of this show, go on to Spotify or to Apple or wherever you get your podcast, 5-star. You don't even have to write anything. Additionally, when you're on YouTube in the near future, search up Finding Strength Method and follow us.
Subscribe.
We'll post it again on our Facebook page and on our social media and stuff like that. Subscribe to that. We're just trying to get it out, like we said, and the more we get it out, more followers, the more people, the more help, and the more stuff we can do for you.
Thanks, guys.
Finding Strength podcast is sponsored by Avantacool.
Avantacool.
Yeah, cold plunges. Who's surprised? We got a cold plunge sponsor. Yeah. I met Jeff Rempfer at a first responder conference not too long ago. He and his brother Dave are the owners, and Jeff's a first responder guy. They are killing it. They're this amazing cold plunges. We just got one put in at our house. How do you like it?
I love it, actually. I mean, it's
game changer, huh?
It is a game changer, especially from coming from a horse trough?
Horse trough.
That's what we've been using.
It worked.
It did. It worked. It was great. I love it.
But it doesn't have a UV filter, freaking regular filter. This thing has a hot tub filter.
Yeah, it goes hot and cold. It's amazing.
It goes to 104 degrees and then all the way down to
45 degrees.
30s. Into the high 30s is what they'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy good stuff. We love it.
You don't need to go that low to get the benefits.
Yeah, low 40s is actually really what you need.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. 45 degrees, 3 minutes, and then get me out.
And then get you out. Yeah, we love it. But the main things that our sponsor wants us to highlight is that it's got an all aluminum frame. It's light, easy to move around. We put it up on our deck. We're able to get it up the stairs and stuff like that.
Installing it was the easiest thing. Like that was the easiest part, was installing it. I was surprised. We took it up a flight of stairs onto our deck, and it was not that hard.
Yeah.
I was surprised how light it was.
Right.
And then even like filling it up. How was that for you?
Super easy.
Yeah.
Really easy to use. I absolutely love this thing. It's got this huge pump in it. So it gets cold really quick and it can heat up really quick as well. And the best part, most hot tubs use like a 220 cables. You have to direct line in. Oh, yeah. This thing uses 110. You just plug it into your regular freaking outlet and you're ready to go. Another amazing benefit. If you use the code STRENGTH24, you will get 25% off.
25% off. That's amazing.
Amazing. They're hooking us up. They really love the cause. We love them. We couldn't be more grateful to these guys for sponsoring the show. So if you need a cold plunge, Avantacool. That is AVANTIKUL.com.
Avantacool.
All right. Welcome back to the Finding Strength podcast. And I am a little sick. I know. I thought my
Heart
voice would be
hurts.
better by now, but it's not. So I probably won't be talking as much. You're welcome.
Well, no.
I'm just kidding.
Everyone just got sad and disappointed. So many people just tuned out. Don't leave.
Yeah, please don't leave. Please don't leave. Because we have Maui back. Maui is back in the house, and we felt like we had to rush through the end there, so we wanted to bring him back on and talk more about his healing process and the way that he healed after losing Kairos. And
Yeah, and if you didn't hear last week's episode, definitely go check that out. It is definitely one of our best ever. It's incredible, and there's a lot of heart in it and a lot of good info, as well as Maui's story, which is, the main thing we want, if you're a listener for the show, there's several episodes that we just would love for the world to hear. That last episode was definitely one of them. So please share with your friends, get it out there, and share the podcast, because the more, listenership we get, the more this message can go out and help people. And we really believe that it does. And we get a lot of feedback from you guys listening who say that it does. So we appreciate you. But since the episode, man, what have you been, what's going on, dude? How are you?
Focusing on work and stuff like that. Yeah, it's good to be back. Thanks for having me back, by the way.
You're welcome, dude.
Yeah, just life. Christmas happened and everything's happening. Everything's crazy, but
I know.
dealing.
The new year coming.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yep. Another year down.
Here we go, 2024. I'm a little nervous for 2024. I'm not going to lie.
We were excited.
Man,
now we're nervous.
There's just a lot of stuff going on.
There's a lot of stuff in the air for
like
us.
for us individually, as well as like culturally, like we're heading into an election year. Like this is gonna be a wild year. So I think as we look at that context for this episode, one of the things that we didn't really get into in the last episode was like healing aspects, and we did a little bit, but towards the end, you had several like bullet points that you wanted to make sure that the audience was able to hear that were helpful for you in your journey of healing, that are widely applicable. So maybe let's kick it off, man. Like what are the things that you really have focused on since experiencing trauma that have helped you become a better person, that have helped you overcome, that have helped you change? Like what are some of the big 5 things that seem to help?
Finding a great support group was huge. So having the right people around you, finding a good therapist, one that you really connect with. Feel your way through that too. Don't just jump in and be like, okay, this is the one for me. I guess, it's not that great, but you don't go to one that you feel like you're really benefiting with,
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. That's something that doesn't get talked about a ton, even though we've talked about it before on the show. A lot of people will go to a therapist and just accept, it's okay. I'm just going to talk about my problems, and I just need somebody to listen to me. The role of a clinician who's worth their salt, and I get a little flack for this because I'm a little critical of my colleagues, because there are a lot of therapists who will just listen. And that is not, in my opinion, in the opinion of many experts, the way that therapy should be. Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
he's a clinician, man. That guy's a clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
And, he says this thing like, I go to my friends to tell them my problems and they give me advice. And I go to my therapist for advice and he listens to my problems. She listens to my problems, right? Like if we could flip that around a little bit, that seems like it'd be helpful. Not that we want therapists to be giving advice all the time, but we definitely want a clinician who will listen to us, but also provide wisdom. And that's something that hopefully you're comfortable asking for when you meet a clinician. I know that's something that you were able to open yourself up to, is the ideas that other people have about healing that might not be my own. Because that's really what it takes to heal, is this opening up and asking for wisdom, help, right? Other people, a therapist. It's not something you can do alone.
Right. Another a big thing, I'm obviously no clinical psychologist and I didn't go to school for it or anything, but so coming from just a regular guy that goes to a therapist looking for healing, I feel like they need to listen, and then what they're doing is helping you find the answers that you already have within yourself.
Bingo.
Everybody has the answers to their problems. It's just buried and hidden by trauma and all of the things that we've collected over the years, that's blocking us from that. So they're trained in finding that, and just from listening, hearing things, and that's why they always ask, oh, what happened in your childhood? Because they want to recognize the earliest experience that could possibly have caused a block.
Yeah.
I feel like with the therapist, how I've been able to find a good one too is like they're pushing me by asking me like hard questions that are really making me think. And you're right, like we have the answers ourselves. Like we were born with everything we need, but they need to be able to ask you the right questions to push you and to open you up in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to learn how to access those, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're trained for that.
Yeah, yeah.
So speaking of hard questions, just kidding. No, I think a good question here would be, okay, so for you, what are some of those things that you didn't know you already knew?
The very first thing that I remember that kind of changed my perspective on things is I had these narratives in my mind about, this was before the court cases, and all that. And I had these stories in my mind of what happened that day to them and what he experienced.
So it's like the movie in the head, right? Okay.
Multiple different versions.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
But that's how we process life. We process life through visualization, story. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're telling yourself all these stories, and then the first thing that Catherine helped me see was that they are just stories. You don't know that that's what the truth is. And so she helped me to recognize that you got to find what's true to you, your truth, and what makes you feel and resonate with that truth. So you're going to feel like your higher self. You're going to feel better about it. And if it's true to you, if you feel like it's true to you.
So pushing back a little bit, because I get pushed back on this all the time. This idea of your truth. How is that different than the truth?
So I'm going to bring up a couple of examples. Well, the main example I want to bring up is rooted in religion, right? So if someone believes in God, or they've had a vision that they've seen the Holy Spirit or whatever, and it moves them, and it is so powerful and so meaningful to them that it makes them change their life, or allows them to see different ways to change their life for the better, then that is their truth. Can we prove all of that? No. And let's say I don't believe in that, and you do. That could be true to you, but it's not true to me. But either way, it's your truth. It's something to believe in. It's something that gives you hope. And,
individualized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times the word truth can get misconstrued, but really what we're trying to do is self-discover. And the truth for me and the truth for you may on the surface appear different, but when you really dig deep down, what is the inherent truth of humanness? We make mistakes. We're capable of overcoming nearly anything, and we need each other. And there's more to it than that, but those three things come up all the time. And so as you pull back the layers of your truth, it's this process of self-discovery where you begin to understand that, well, I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm okay. I'm not going to do this thing perfectly. I probably should ask for some help, and I'm not going to quit. And that comes in so many different packages and shapes and forms and ideas and ideologies and philosophies. But the root truth to humanness is that we make mistakes and we need help.
Learning from your mistakes.
Learn from them. Yeah, grow from them. And then hopefully you take that and you share it and you help other people with what you've learned. So that they can self-discover their truth about how awesome they are, you know?
That's why connection is so huge.
No, it's the only thing.
Yeah, it's key.
So yours was find your crowd, right therapist. What's the other one?
Finding something to believe in.
Yeah.
Like something
You feel at the time you feel lost and confused and you just want to give up and you don't believe there's anything worth being here. You just want to be with your child, you know, and he's not here. And whatever your belief system is, we hope, that word hope, that when we pass, we're going to see them again, you know. And some people don't believe in that, and that's okay, but I did. I do. And so I was constantly fighting, trying to be here. What am I here for? And it took a while. I couldn't even tell you the first time that I realized that this is what's giving me hope. This is something to believe in again. I mean, the biggest one is having my baby born. When Ezekiel was born, that was the first time I've ever felt that love again. I thought it was lost. I thought I didn't have any left, you know. And then the moment he was born, it's the exact same love that you felt. And you realize that you have an infinite amount of that inside. It's just shut off when you suffer major trauma and stuff like that related to that. So find something to believe in that's going to give you hope to want to
Sorry, I'm
continue to move
interrupting
on.
because that's what I do. Shut off. What do you mean?
So you have an unlimited capacity for love.
Right.
Everyone does, but when I lost Kairos, I felt like my capacity was my capacity for love was gone.
There's a limitation now.
Yeah. I didn't, and it wasn't something that I thought up in my head. It was just
Something you felt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
wow.
it felt like this gate just shut and shut my heart out, or my heart
what
felt
did-
like it fell apart.
And what did that lead you? So obviously Catherine's helping you pick up these narratives, right? So my heart shuts down. I close off to the world. What are some of the narratives, the stories that you began telling yourself because you felt like it shut off?
That I didn't want to be here. That what was the point of being here?
Yep.
Hopelessness. What was my purpose anymore? My purpose was to be a father, and my stepson's growing up, and gosh, he's 19 now. He's grown up now.
Oh my
but
goodness.
yeah, it was just felt like hopelessness. I was lost.
Yeah, isn't that? And this is like, I love what I call them phenomenons, right? These things that you see regularly throughout life that are repeatable. And this narrative that you picked up because of your loss and your trauma is something that is ubiquitous, right? It's a phenomenon. Everyone experiences it very, very similarly as they go through these deep wounding events. And it's this belief that because this horrible, awful thing happened to me, I am somehow responsible.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And because I am somehow responsible, that makes me da 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 da.
Yeah, yeah. My narrative is I wasn't able to protect my son. I'm
And so I believe that I am,
worthless.
yeah. So, but if I could have protected my son, that would have made me worthwhile.
You think.
But that's not true. But that's the idea that we have in our head, because we think in such dichotomous terms, like all or nothing. If I could have saved him, that would have made me a good father. But since I didn't, that makes me a bad father. That black and white thinking is the exact result of trauma, because the brain doesn't understand how to function after trauma. But then you look and you understand the neuroscience behind it, and you realize that the part of the brain that creates the gray, the understanding, the meaning, the purpose, that part of your brain gets shut down after trauma. when I get into this hopeless state, my brain goes into the back of itself and I'm in this survival mode, just relying on old narratives, old patterns, old neural pathways that have been there since I was a child. And that's why in the trauma work, we dive into, okay, what are those early narratives? And this idea of, I'm worthless, that didn't just all of a sudden pop up out of nowhere when you lost Kairos, did it? That's something that comes from way long ago. And it's just reinforced over and over to varying degrees and really intensely with these big, big, big things that happen to us.
Yeah. So getting over the fact and accepting that it's not my fault.
Yeah. Huge.
Everyone, I believe, suffers from a little bit of survivor's guilt, but initially it was major. It was in such a major way that it's you feel like it's your responsibility as the father to protect your family. I mean, that's just the way hopefully most men are raised. I think it's a great and healthy thing to feel like you're a protector, but
yeah, isn't that evidence of your goodness?
Right.
Do you think that comes as nature though? Like for men? Because like women, right? We have like our motherly, like we are connected to our children and we're very nurturing and that just kind of comes natural. Do you think for men that is like protecting? Like that just comes natural for dads?
Yeah, I think so.
Protector.
Yeah. It's, it's because women are a lot more nurturing. You guys are a lot more emotionally in tune. You guys are closer to your higher self, I believe. Men's testosterone levels are a lot higher, and so we naturally have a little more aggressive state. And I believe throughout time, we've been cultivated into these protectors, and we like that because it gives us a way to feed our ego, right? Like,
sure.
I think it's a beautiful thing. I support both roles in marriage and raising kids, and
it's almost like you need them. You need both.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that a man couldn't be very nurturing or vice versa, but it helps because right now trying to play the one role with my baby is really hard, and I wish. I work on all the time trying to be more nurturing. I'm very overprotective, unfortunately. That's due to what I went through. So my anxiety is heightened trying to raise baby. But
yeah, I posted a thing on Facebook and said, what questions do you want to ask Maui? And we got a lot of questions from the same person, which is odd. I wonder why. That same person writes, thanks, Kevin, by the way. Where to go? How different is it raising a child now after losing a child?
It
very
is
great question.
Very, very different. It's very challenging for me. It's one of the main things that I try to work on.
I bet.
I was so, when my two boys were younger, raising them, I was just so proud and happy of the young men they were becoming. And I looked at that and I was like, man, I'm doing a good job.
Right.
I feel like I'm doing a good job. And
because there's these benchmarks, right? And you're like, oh, they're hitting the mark. So that must mean I'm doing a good job.
Right. Yeah. It's not like they're doing the majority of it. You know what I mean?
Right. But it's all
We're just guiding and supporting them. Right. But I mean, I think that's healthy to have that pride as a father and a parent to say, God, I'm so proud of my kids.
Yes.
And appreciate the fact that you are helping them to become good people. I mean, that's their job, right?
Yes.
And so I was always so proud of that. And I still am. Like, Caden's an amazing young man. But now it's so challenging because, first of all, I was so afraid to have another baby because there was no way that I wanted to bring another child into this world, because at that time I was still struggling with accepting the fact that I cannot protect them. No one can protect their children 100%. You know, you can do your best, and you can create a healthy home and teach them everything you can, but you're really there to just support them. You can't be with them 24/7. So accepting the fact that as parents, we cannot all the time protect our children, that was a big thing for me. I still struggle with being overprotective. My anxiety is really high whenever I have baby, even if it's just me and him at the house. I feel like I always need to have my eye on him, where he's at. If he cries, it affects me in a major way. I'm way more in touch with my nurturing side now, and so I'm very emotional. And so when he cries, it breaks my heart. It's hard. It's really hard. I'm afraid of so much more, but I'm trying to work on accepting that, you know, that's okay to have that fear and not to just keep him in a cage and don't let him do anything. So, I mean, I start out slow and I try things. You know, I take him to the park, and I feel good about that because my attention is just on him, right? And so I feel better about that. But if I take him to a friend's house for dinner or something, I can't focus on the conversation with my friends because my attention is very stuck on him. And then, you know, when you try to let go a little bit, things could happen, and
like run out of the road or something.
Yeah. Your baby.
Maybe this is a personal story we're telling.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. Yeah, Maui came over for dinner, and he brought little man over, and Maui and I start talking. Really, for the first time, we're like talking to each other, and for like a brief moment, we both just kind of have this bro moment, and then all of a sudden we're like, where's baby?
I was like, can you see baby from that angle? Because I know he went that way.
Well, someone came to the door, so I went to go answer the door.
Yeah, the door was open.
Door was open. He
Baby
got it
made
like
it outside.
Well, he
stealth mode.
he's a brilliant child.
He is.
Yeah.
And he is sneaky, and he got out. Anyways, but the point is, kids are difficult to raise no matter what, because they just run around and they're not aware of the way things work in the world, and they're going to try to hurt themselves. I mean, I know this is like
Well, they don't have fear.
well,
They don't have fear of death.
I don't know it.
They have no fear of death.
And this
They
is
have no known to
a weird
it.
way
Yeah.
to say it, but by definition, toddlers are psychopaths. There's a reason you don't give a toddler a knife, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why you don't leave a toddler alone, because they have no feeling for anyone but themselves. They don't have a conscience. They don't know right from wrong.
Awareness.
Their awareness is not there, and our job is to keep them safe. And so couple that with a bunch of, you know, background fear of all the horrible, awful stuff that could happen to somebody. That's a recipe for severe anxiety. And being able to manage that, be aware of it, not let it overwhelm you or whoever the person that you're taking care of gets overwhelmed by it because you're afraid and you're too emotional. That is a challenge for many, many parents. But what I found in working with families who've lost children, that becomes, amplified significantly, because you're in the back of your mind, it's, well, I know the very worst thing that could happen. And if I let that happen again, what does that say about me? Maybe then I really am the failure, is what I've heard people talk about. Is that similar for you, or what have you kind of come to grips with as you wrestle with, how do I take care of this kid and protect him, and my responsibility versus what I can and can't control? And
It's just, honestly, it's a continuous, I focus a lot on my mental health. And I don't, I feel like I got away from the blaming myself. And I feel like, if I can't think about what would happen if that happened again. I don't.
you don't go there.
No, I don't think about that.
Good. Because what's the point? Right.
Yeah. It's not.
That's
It's not.
a good
reality.
motivator for behavior ever.
No.
So instead, what is the motivator for the caring that you do for?
Just trying to make sure that he has his essentials, and after that, I'm gonna. I try now, but he's nonverbal, and I believe he's a little bit on the spectrum, so it's a little more challenging. But my goal is to just teach him how to love and accept himself in all his differences, and appreciation, gratitude, like all the things that I
Values.
yeah, I've always had strong values that I taught my other boys, but now it's very, very love focused, love
really
driven. I want to express as much as I can to him and show him that as a dad, you don't always have to be the tough guy, and you don't always have to be the strong person all the time. When he needs it, absolutely, I'll be there for whatever. But I want to show him that if I'm struggling, it's okay that he sees that. I'm not going to go hide in a room somewhere. He's very emotionally in tune. I used to sing to him when he was a baby, and certain songs that were sad songs, he would start crying over it, and then I would start crying, of course. But he senses that it's very heightened with him.
He's pretty sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. That's a superpower. That's amazing.
I'm very sensitive too.
Me too.
Well, and I feel like you said earlier when you did have baby, that love came back, like that feeling as a father, that love. And then it's awesome that you want to take the very thing that gave you purpose again, and you want to give that to the baby.
I want to give it to the baby.
That love. Yeah, you want him, because
wanna-
that gave you that purpose. And so you've learned that love will give him purpose also.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I want everybody to know that, it's just the message. Like if you can show the world the love that you show your children, then you can see that it's worth living. It's worth being here.
That's beautiful.
There's a lot of beautiful things out there that if you just pay attention, you can see. That's one of my bullet points, is trying to recognize the beauty in your everyday.
Yeah.
Everything that you do, try and find something that gives you joy out of it. And if you can't find a speck of joy in the things that you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change it up.
What brings you joy these days? Obviously being a dad.
Yeah. Seeing my baby smile. Art. I love to do art. Connection, human connection. I love connecting with people on a deep level. I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh my God, now he's going to talk again. Great. It's going to be all esoteric and deep. And
We get that too. We're like, oh, the quacks are coming? Oh boy.
Deal with it, people. You're welcome.
Yeah. And I don't ever blame anybody. I mean, everybody gets caught up in the ego that builds up from society and work and everything in the world. And so it's very easy to lose that vision. But focusing on trying to be your higher self and the best version of yourself that you can be is what this existence is about.
Yeah.
And trying to connect with those people is, I find when I'm vulnerable, I connect with people more. The people that can accept it. The people that can't, I don't care. You don't need to be in my life. That's all right.
Yeah, that's a big teacher of trauma. Sorry, I'm gonna
No,
interject.
you're good.
One of the things you talked about last podcast was when Kairos died, you began to see the world as just like grayscale, very black and white. And then all of a sudden color started to come back in. Piggybacking off of that kind of metaphor, I think what I've realized is I'm painting a life that I'm not using Crayola crayons anymore. I've kind of like graduated to like a wide variety of varying colors. And those colors are emotion. And the more depth of understanding I have in the use of my medium for creation, color, right? Paints, pastels, the more beautiful life can be. And I've had moments where life is just dark. It's just gray. And that gives so much context to how beautiful and colorful these amazing moments can be. And the amazing moments, man, they are simple. They are just these small, beautiful moments where your kid just looks at you and smiles, or where you remember somebody you've lost, or where you're out in nature and you just look over this beautiful view, and you're just like, wow, this is my life. Yeah. But I didn't have that before I went through
the dark.
And that's the gift of trauma. That's the gift of the dark, is it brings in the color. But you have to be the one. We have to be the ones that begin to broaden our use of color. Mm-hmm. It's nobody else is going to do it for us. It's on us to trade in the Crayolas and go get a wide variety of paints so we can create something beautiful for ourselves. And so many of us are stuck merely existing, just trying to get through the day and trying to make it to the night so that they can watch their show and they can pass out and then wake up in the morning and do it again. And it's this menial, task-oriented, cyclical, survivalistic state that many, many people live in. And it breaks my heart. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, this shitty thing happens to them. And you have to ask yourself a big question. What's the point? What does it all mean? What am I supposed to do? Why am I here? Where am I going? What am I doing with this little thing that I have that's this big? Because now that just happened and I realize this is shorter than I thought. What's next? That's what brings in the color. And people don't get that until they've been through it. And you try and avoid that your whole life. You're creating this bubble wrap life to keep you from experiencing something tragic and terrible. But if you embrace that reality and you understand that life can be tough and you don't try and avoid that tough and you go towards it, man, it changes how you experience.
Yeah, the way I like to explain it is the universe or God, if you will, whatever term you want to use, it's here to support us. And it wants us to have these great experiences. But if you don't make the changes yourself, it will force change on you.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation may be, something will happen that affects you, that forces you to your rock bottom, and then you can finally make that change. So a huge recommendation out there, try to take the steps before that happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're having an inkling, if you're feeling in a rut where it's just every day is the same thing, find something that you can find joy in and start taking the steps to become the best version of yourself before the universe makes that change for you.
What are some of the steps that you took?
Meditation, plant medicine helped out a lot. Therapy, embracing the reality that's dark and light has to exist at once. It's not a one at a time thing. It's not, hey, I'm so much in the light now, all my darkness is gone. Yeah. It's embracing all of it. Conflict is always going to be a thing. There's never going to be peace, absolute peace. You just have to learn how to embrace both sides. So embracing all of my trauma and supporting it and not being so judgmental of my own reactivity and things like that.
Kind of be nicer to yourself.
Yeah.
Not so self-critical.
Yeah, self-compassion.
That's a big one. That's hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that's really good advice. That's what the meditation for me has done, and for a lot of people that I've worked with that they explain that meditation has helped them be less self-critical and more self-aware, which meditation is such a tough one because you try and explain what that is to people, and there's this kind of like weird barrier to meditation. I wonder if we could kind of bring down that barrier for people and help them understand what meditation really is and how it works and how simple and easy it is. For you, how did you start practicing meditation? Really, mindfulness is I'll lump that into, because mindfulness for me is the foundation to all change. And meditation is a great way to understand mindfulness. We can parse the two out, but go for it. What do you got?
Yeah, meditation's a hard thing because you say meditation and everybody thinks you just have to sit here and or even clear your mind. Everybody has this idea of what meditation is, and it's different for everyone. My mind has always went 1,000 miles per hour nonstop. It talks all the time, and so it's very noisy. And for me, meditation was sitting down and listening to those voices instead of trying to empty my thoughts. A lot of people are trying to clear their mind and not think of anything. And for me, it was actually listening to those thoughts helped me to find my higher self. The purpose of meditation, in my opinion, is recognizing your true self, your higher self, and seeing that person that it's there.
Those of you who are listening didn't notice, but he just gestured to his heart with his hand, your true self. And I do this all the freaking time. Meditation is not something that you do in your mind. It's something that you allow in the mind that becomes very heart-centered. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people need to be a lot more open-minded about meditation and think of it that it doesn't have to be so black and white. You have to do it this way. You know, you can lay down, you can stand up.
Be out in nature.
There's walking meditation.
There's
sitting meditation, laying
there's
meditation.
all sorts of stuff.
You can meditate literally as you're listening to this podcast and just take a breath in and just notice what it feels like to breathe for a second and just sit and listen to all the sounds around you. That's meditative. It's creating a state of awareness with deliberation. I'm deliberately creating an awareness state where I am just on purpose becoming more aware of all sensory stuff around me. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes.
Yep.
Most importantly, sensations. And that is why a key point or part of the meditative thing, mindfulness thing, whatever it is that you want to call it, is just becoming more aware of your breath. Just feeling the breath out and in and focusing on the body and then noticing the thoughts that come up. For once in your damn life, stop trying to control the thoughts in your mind and just let them happen.
You gotta let go.
Just watch them, right? And it's difficult at first. That's why you just start like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. Just watch your thoughts. Don't make them go away. Don't bring in thoughts that you don't want or do want. Just watch what happens when you just be. A human being, not a human doing, a human being for 5 minutes a day. And people ask me, Brittany knows this, what's the number one thing I should do? We were just up at saying goodbye to my grandma. And what did my mom ask? She says, what's the first thing people should do if they want to improve their mental health? Meditate. Number one on my list, always. Meditate. Always. Mindful. Mm-hmm. The cold can help with that, whatever it is. But I love that is something that you have found has been so helpful for you. And I hear this all the time. All the time. Because it's this practice, not performance. That's key. We're not performing. You don't perform mindfulness or meditation. You practice it over and over and over. And you don't even get better at it. There's no good or bad at meditation. You just get more comfortable doing it. That's not better. You just become more and more aware of what's really going on in your experience rather than ignoring it all the time. Because that's really what you're trying to learn to do with meditation.
Trying to be as conscious.
Aware, more conscious, more awake. And that's such a freaking term that gets overused now. Woke.
Woke,
So woke,
but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that much of the mind is asleep and just running in looping patterns, trying to create the same results over and over. What meditation and mindfulness does is it wakes us up to those patterns And then once we're aware of them, you can actually change them. But those patterns, those subconscious thought patterns, they control 95% of your daily behavior. You don't even know what you're doing. 95% of the time, it's just happening. But when you start to be self-aware through mindfulness, you can change those thought patterns and influence the 95%. And then you become calmer, you become nicer, you become, I don't know, what else have you become since you've meditated more regularly?
Definitely more aware. I've more compassionate.
Yeah, it's a huge one.
Empathetic. I want to say patience, but I still struggle with that. But I'm working on it. So
You're definitely more patient than you used to be. Yeah, definitely. But that's a big one for most. Most people want more patience. There's actually this joke that we used to say, like when I was, a practicing member of like a religious faith practice. Don't ask God for patience because He'll give it to you and He'll make life hard for you, right? So most people don't want to ask for patience, but the reality is patience is something that is very much learned.
yeah, I work on that a lot. My biggest focus with that is trying to be calm with Ezekiel, my baby, and that's, I believe that he is nonverbal, and a very different experience from my other children is because it helps me to learn how to be more patient, and just be paying attention to him. I think I touched on it last time about learning from your kids and things like that, and it's just paying attention. Awareness of everything, your surroundings, inside of you, like everything. I'd say another thing is media, whether that be podcasts, books, movies, anything, video games. It can be anything that you connect with. You know what I mean? You hear these messages so much more clear when you're in a state of survival.
Very true.
I mean, I watch Disney movies now with baby, and I'm crying. Like almost
Disney
every
movies.
movie, I'm like, holy crap, it's nuts. You didn't see the deep meaning of them when you were kids. You were just like, oh, this movie's awesome, the music's cool, but now you watch them and you're like,
which ones? Do you have any Disney movies that you really?
Man, Encanto.
Oh my gosh.
We were watching it last night.
We just watched it last night.
Dude, Encanto gets me every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Layla's like, Mom, stop crying. I'm like, I can't.
So good.
Yeah,
Encanto's beautiful. That was really the last good Disney movie. They've kind of had a bunch of duds since then, but that was really, really good.
It was a good one.
Yeah, I don't know what order they came out in or anything, but
yeah,
I mean,
we love Disney movies. Well, that's our kids' age, so we watch all the Disney movies. And they've been okay since, but Encanto's great. Another one we absolutely just can't get enough of. We watch it every year. 4 Shorts, Coco.
Coco's awesome.
Oh,
yeah, I love Coco.
A lot of depth to it. Anyways, but yeah, media, film, art. That's a great way to find connection, meaning. Yeah.
Yeah, books are awesome. Podcasts, anything.
Okay, let's get another question from the post here. What were some of the most healing things you did after losing Kairos? What were some of the things you wish you didn't do looking back?
Post Kairos, what are some of the things that I wish I didn't do? I don't think there's anything that I would have changed. I don't know of any other route when you're in survival mode but the route that you're supposed to take.
Are there any, so kind of rephrasing that, maybe we'll say, are there any pitfalls in the trauma recovery process that you've noticed that might help other people as they recover from their own stuff? What are the pitfalls of trauma recovery that you want people to be aware of?
Not being compassionate with yourself would be one.
That's
one of the big ones. It just closes your mind off to so much more, and you have to learn how to forgive yourself through it all. So I mean, I worked on it from day one. Well, not day one, let's say, but when I started doing the work for myself, seeing a therapist, self-compassion was huge.
That's day one, man. I mean, from day one, you're trying to freaking figure out how to go on. So yes, day one.
Yeah. So I wish I would have put more work into that self-compassion. Like, be compassionate with yourself, be forgiving with yourself, be kind, recognizing your inner child and looking at that child and saying it's okay. You know, like, he's hurt, very hurt, and being compassionate with them, with your own inner child, is huge.
Yeah. I need to show me love just as much as anybody else needs to be shown love.
Yeah.
And how do I best show myself love? What is loving kindness for me?
Right.
What do I need? Yeah. Meditation's huge for that. Yeah. Asking that question and listening and letting the mind, the inner child, like you mentioned, right, teach you what it is that you've needed your whole life that you never got.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. How about for you? Can you think of any pitfalls Brindy, as you've overcome stuff?
I mean, I just feel like with meditation, what it helped me with the most was really understanding who I am. Like, really coming to grips of who is Brindy? What is Brindy? And I didn't really know until I stopped and listened. Pitfalls? I feel like...
I think you said the pitfall that you're kind of mentioning there is don't avoid self-discovery.
Yeah.
Don't try to distract yourself from the process of understanding who you are with a bunch of junk.
Well, and I think the biggest pitfall for me was like my story in my head was I'm not worthy enough, not smart enough. You know, I always was like telling myself the negative, like believing the negative things that like my thoughts were giving me. I was feeding them. And then getting into mindfulness and meditation, I was able to really see if that resonated with my heart, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And so I knew there was a change that I had to make. And the first one was changing the way I talk about myself. The negative talking to myself was, it put me in a dark place.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's really hard to change.
Very hard to change. It took me a long time to figure out how to talk to myself positively and look at the things that I loved about myself and the things that I could use as my purpose and share that light with the world.
So it was almost like a shift in focus away from self-improvement and towards self-fulfillment.
Yeah.
What am I doing well? How can I double down on those things? Rather than constantly trying to be like, this is the stuff that I suck at, let's get better. It was this shift to, I'm beautiful in these areas. Yeah. Let's use that. Let's focus on that. Love that. That's huge. Yeah. Huge.
The other thing with the self-compassion thing is I guess a pitfall would be don't take on too much.
Yes. Boundaries.
You know,
huge.
I think that's what happened with me. You know, when I met my new circle of people afterwards, you guys all had your own businesses and you were rocking it and doing this and that, and you were making moves. And I was like, man, that's what I want to do. But I wasn't in a place to be doing that, you know. I was still in survival mode, not, you know, I'm surviving and not trying to thrive. Don't try and thrive so soon. You know, like, take the time if you can.
Well, thriving means different things to different people.
Yeah.
And comparing yourself with thriving probably doesn't really help.
Yeah. Don't compare yourself to don't compare your healing to somebody else's healing either. It's completely different. Kevin actually helped me realize that I was trying to take on too much. At first, he was like, dude, you don't even have to worry about that right now. Like,
especially when you're surviving. I love that you said that. Yeah. Like, while you're surviving, you don't need to be thriving.
Yeah.
You just need to survive.
Yeah, just survive and get yourself to a place where you can start thriving. And I believe this is the year that I'm going to start doing that. And it's been a little while, you know, but I felt like I've been in survival mode the whole time, and I feel like I'm slowly starting to get into the thriving mode after these 4.5 years. Like, it's That's been a long time, but just take your time. Don't rush yourself. You can't rush healing. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, don't overdo anything. Take the time you need. If you're broken and you can't go to work, then don't. You know, I know that's so hard to hear for some people because they're like, I have to make the money. But there does come a point, you know, you can either call in and say, look, I am not capable of working today. Or you can say, I'm going to come into work, and then you could have a complete meltdown and lose yourself and then lose your job completely. So the balance, right? You got to find that balance. Like, you need to take the time. If you're hurting to an extent that you cannot function, that's okay. But just be somewhere safe in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, where we place our focus, we create our energy. And if I'm worried about something, I'm putting my focus there along with my energy. And a lot of times in the healing process, we're so worried about what we're not doing that we lose sight of what we need to be doing. And that's why it is essential that we focus on the fundamentals, the basics, right? It's back to basics, which is essentially, that's what you're talking about. What are the basics? How's my sleep? How's my socialization? How's my movement, my exercise? How's my nutrition?
Yeah. Am I eating anything? Am I sleeping
Right.
at
And
all?
those things get skipped over when we're super focused on surviving, even though they're the fundamental part of survival.
Yeah.
So it's really being very deliberate and pulling back and going, okay, can I improve my sleep? Can I improve my nutrition? Can I improve my movement? Those three things are huge. Can I improve my socialization? Right? Get around some people, eat healthier. You want to know the simplest thing people can do? Just right now, you want to know a very simple, easy mental health improvement thing to do? Cut soda out of your life. Sugary drinks, cut it out of your life. Get that junk and you will begin to feel healing in your body, right? Simple, little, tiny things. Move every day. Move every day for 15 minutes. Just walk. Be alive and get this body thing doing its thing every day, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Something like those little simple fundamental things propel us into action so that we have enough energy to do the difficult things that we need to do.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of healing and recovery and trauma work that gets skipped over a lot, especially like my colleagues are, guilty of skipping over that stuff and just wanting to talk about, okay, let me hear about the worst moment in your life. Let's talk about it all we can. Let's talk about your belief systems. And we miss this entire fundamental base layer of just how are you functioning day to day. And I wish that more focus would be placed on that and the clinical side of things and even especially the medical side of things. We're so focused on getting people these medications and focusing on symptoms and what's not going well. And so anyways, there's my soapbox, I guess. But it's a big one for me that I talk about all the time because it's so important to people who heal. I gotta have some health in my life. I gotta have some stability, some foundation.
Yeah, don't take on too much with that either. Don't take on a huge regimen.
Simple.
Like you said, start out with just walking.
Yeah.
Go out and go for a walk. Yeah. Get outside, move your body, things like that. You don't have to go join CrossFit with Kevin Tenney and be like,
that was fun though.
Oh, it was absolutely fun. And it was a connection part.
It was a connection, yeah.
But
to me, I hated blowing my back out and you know what I mean?
Not healthy. Too much.
Yeah, there can be
extreme.
too much. CrossFit's hardcore.
So, where was the biggest pivot in your healing process then? When you started like realizing like, okay, I'm going to be okay. I just got to keep staying on this path.
I don't remember the timing in, but it was through therapy and plant medicine probably was the biggest pivot. I was able to see other options, get out of that hopelessness a bit. And
one of the questions from the internet thing was, was there ever a time that you realized you could be happy again? Which is essentially the same question, right? Yeah. Do you think the plant medicine was kind of a big part of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. for people that don't understand it, what it helps with is neuroplasticity and allows you to restructure and rebuild new neurons to get out of those it gets you out of the reactiveness that you build up from all these
The loops.
the traumas. And I don't remember who described it. What doctor described it the best? He was describing it like a sledding hill, a hill that
Michael
people
Pollan.
sled down.
Yeah.
Michael Pollan.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, you slide down this hill over and over again, all these people, and you create these grooves in the snow, and this is just like the way we are with our everyday practices and things like that. We get stuck in these ruts.
The way we react. Yeah.
Yeah, the grooves take you down the same path each time, and then plant medicine helps with the neuroplasticity to where it's almost like a fresh coat of snow. That you had a heavy snowfall the night before, so when you go sledding, you can create these new paths. You don't have to follow the same, and it's a tool to use to help you with that, you know, and it actually does help in the brain.
It does.
I mean,
Big time.
Huge.
it's hard for us adults, you know. Children have the plasticity is there. They can pivot and they can move and make these different choices and stuff, but it's so hard for us as adults because it's been ingrained and we've been doing it over and over and over again. It's all the stuff in our subconscious that makes us reactive, you know, and so having that fresh coat of snow helps out a lot.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah, there's a great movie on Netflix, documentary on Netflix called How to Change Your Mind, which is based off of the book written by Michael Pollan. Incredible. That's his kind of a metaphor that's really beautiful. But the main thing that we're learning from this quite literally renaissance of use of plant medicine, psychedelics within the therapeutic community is we're learning that the actual event of, you know, taking the medicine is not the biggest part of creating that neuroplasticity, especially with like ketamine's one that's been around forever. It's probably the one that seems to be the most readily acceptable. It's widely available. Most states, if not all states, I'm not quite sure, have ketamine, therapeutic use of ketamine available. Many people don't even know they've been on ketamine because it's an anesthetic, right? Not even in the qualification of psychedelics. It's called a dissociative anesthetic, but what ketamine does that's quite profound is there's this beautiful event that you go through, this hour-long to 2-hour-long trip, journey, whatever, which I was there for your first one, which was cool. I think we talked about it in the last episode too.
We did.
But what ketamine does, it's quite amazing, is it shifts the brain's ability to create new habits for up to like 2 weeks. And your brain's now more neuroplastic than it was before it had taken the medicine. And what we actually see is the medicine itself shuts down a part of the brain that focuses on stop behaviors and gives energy to the part of the brain that focuses on go behaviors. Do we need more explanation of that? Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I just want to know the difference between the ketamine and the psilocybin then.
Okay. So psilocybin.
Where's the difference?
So ketamine is working on different chemical neuropathways, working with what's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. And that's your go, no-go stuff in your brain. It also works on a chemical called glutamate. It's going to activate your prefrontal cortex.
So your consciousness.
Prefrontal cortex stuff, yes.
Yeah.
What psilocybin and LSD and other similar psychedelics like those, other plant medicines like that, what they seem to do is they mimic, and you can actually take the chemical composition of serotonin and you can lay over the chemical composition of psilocybin, which is absolutely freaking amazing that this exists in nature.
Yeah.
You can go out
grown.
and pick this out of the ground, ingest this stuff, and it's creating basically new serotonin chemicals in your body. sort of, kind of.
Don't go out and just hunt for them.
No, maybe don't do that.
We're not
But you
recommending
could.
any of that.
I mean, you could.
They do
but
it.
Well, yeah, you could, but I mean, you could also take a poison mushroom.
mushroom.
If you don't know what you're doing, just don't do
Don't
it.
do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But my point in saying that is like, this is not something that somebody in a lab is sitting
Just
down and
yeah.
creating.
That's why I'm
Right,
like
right.
the difference
Right.
between
And
the
even,
two.
and even LSD, right? That comes from a fungus, a mold, right? That it's been derived from. Like all this stuff is stuff that exists in nature that people are consuming to create these states of altered awareness. And what's happening, psilocybin is a part of the brain that's responsible for your ego, called the anterior cingulate cortex, shuts down.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And it creates this really very kind of like open communication between the midbrain and the front brain in a way that hasn't really been available to the brain before, in addition to that serotonin that's there. And you can create all sorts of new habits, new behaviors, new ideas, new understandings. And that lasts for, some people will say a lifetime is what some people say, that you're never the same again. It's almost like what kind of like a trauma thing does. But, anyways, this is something that is definitely, taboo to talk about because it is new and kind of scary, and people are kind of, leery of like, well, what could this do? This seems so powerful, right? And then we have all these narratives in the media that have been around since, the war on drugs began in the 60s that were aimed at psychedelics because of all the hippie movement stuff that was going on. But what we're doing now in the medical community, in the clinical community, therapeutic community, is we are very deliberately studying these medicines and finding that they are the most helpful tools that we have for mental health.
They've been like the most effective.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Psilocybin specifically has been touted as the most successful medicinal, thing ever. The very first clinical studies that were done, you can watch this in the How to Change Your Mind movie. The very first clinical studies that were ever done on psilocybin, they had these people who were suicidal because they were diagnosed with terminal cancer and they just wanted to die. And they gave these people one dose, and within one dose, which is like a 6-hour long session, within one dose or 2 doses, depending, they came back and 80% of them completely eradicated their suicidality. That's unheard of.
How do you feel like that affected you, Maui?
It
With
just
your suicidal ideation?
almost just like what Nat
remarkable.
just explained. Yeah, it's and it's I can't explain it on the
Medical
scientific
term.
level,
Yeah, no, me either.
but from my
But through your
experiences,
experience,
it can be a very scary thing while you're going through it. But just embrace it. And a lot of times it's very hard to understand what you're experiencing and things like that. But when the medicine wears down, you reflect on what you experienced, and being able to relate those things into your life and the things you do is where the changes come in.
So did it make you more aware of like your going through everyday life, right? What was it that made you feel like you had to change something, or
Honestly,
it
it made me feel closer to my higher self.
okay.
It was like a tool to help me see that person inside. You're just shrouded in darkness, and it's so hard to see that person anymore, and you don't appreciate the good things that you see, that the qualities that you have.
Yeah.
And the plant medicine was something that helped me to see the good qualities in myself, and a lot clearer. It allowed me to be closer to Kairos, to feeling him again. I felt so distant from him for so long because I wanted him. I wanted him to be here again, and I couldn't calm myself and focus on that he's everywhere now and he can be close to me at any time I wanted to, but the plant medicine helped me to feel him again, to see the beauty in everything, and connect me more with self-compassion and love. And whenever I'm in that state, I feel a lot closer to him. And so it made me build that connection in my head that if I can do more practices to stay in the state of my higher self, I can be closer to him at all times.
So if I can do more practices to stay in that higher state, so what it compelled you to do was, what are those practices?
To do the work. So
there you go.
Plant medicine isn't something that you just want to do and rely on that. And this is going to fix everything. It just brings you to a realization that this is where you're trying to get to. And it opens your mind to other practices such as meditation, reading, exercising, eating healthy, like doing all these things allows you to get to your higher self and be your higher self without the medicine. And that's what the practices are there for. For me, everybody may not use the same terms or anything like that, but I mean, you look at the Tibetan monks and stuff, and they're looking at, trying to reach enlightenment, and that's literally just being your higher self. Because, I mean, we're all beautiful beings with so much love, but it's just so hard to see sometimes,
It's
Almost
shrouded.
like shines the light on like the good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. It opens you up to the truth.
Yeah.
And there is like your truth, like we talked about in the beginning, but there's also the truth. And the truth is, you are love. We are love. And what these practices, these habits, these tools create is an awareness of the truth that we are all love and we are all one. And that our time here being aware that I am part of the one is short. And in the meantime, what am I going to do about it?
Finding the right things to focus on, A lot of people focus on financial success, right? And that, I mean, it's a great thing because then you can provide for your family and create experiences and things like that. But people lose themselves so much in everything they do. And this is just an example, they lose themselves in their career and they forget about spending time with their kids. And that's the important thing, is connection, right?
Yeah.
Human connection is what we're here for, and it's what makes us all feel great. Yeah. And so don't lose yourself in any of the practices you do. Morning routines people can get lost in that. Can be like, oh, I didn't say my positive affirmations this morning, and then you feel like trash about it. Don't. Yeah. Forgive yourself. It's okay. Don't get caught up and don't get overtaken by the things that you're doing, Really do it intentionally. Do these things intentionally. Look at them as a positive. What I'm doing this for me, it's making me better in this way, not I have to do my checklist. If I don't get my checklist out of the way, then my whole day's off. It's okay.
Yeah. Give yourself grace.
You didn't meditate today. That's okay. And just don't be blinded by your pursuit of whatever it is. Find the balance in everything. You have to have balance. And that's different for everybody.
Yeah, it's very individualized.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Yeah. Well, as I reflect back on these last 2 episodes of us together, I think the thing that I always learn from you, and the reason why I just love the hell out of you, man, is because you don't pretend to be something you're not. You're unapologetically Maui. And you're so full of love and kindness and understanding. And I admire that deeply. And I hope that as the listeners were able to kind of get to know you, that you guys who are out there hearing this now can take what you've learned from these last 2 episodes and apply a small part of it. But I would hope that from what I take from this, that you can hear that being kind and good and self-compassionate and less judgmental and taking it easy on yourself is paramount. It's so important because we have all this opportunity to be self-critical and mean to ourselves and judgmental. But in the end, all these tools, all these practices, plant medicine, meditation, morning routines, all these things, they are tools that aid us in the process of self-acceptance, accepting our true self, our higher self. And so I hope that you guys can pull something out of this and share it with the people you love and have a better day today than you did yesterday and keep on keeping on and do all that stuff. What were you guys' big takeaways as we think back, and maybe just highlight one thing that you want to make sure we pull out of this?
You want me to go?
Sure.
I like the word that you used at the end of what you were saying is you should be unapologetic about being a kind person. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Be very intentional with the things that you do and be unapologetic about it. Don't question yourself or beat yourself up for doing something kind. It's not your responsibility if somebody isn't happy about it. You know, obviously we want to make sure we're not harming anybody or making anybody feel uncomfortable. But if that's not the space that is going to accept that, then that's not the space you need to be in. Be unapologetically kind.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. The first word that popped in my head was connection. I think it's important to put yourself around people who really see you for you, who you can be your true self in front of. And with that comes abundance of love. I think that's what helps the world is connection and loving on each other. And if you don't have someone you connect with, go find a friend group. Go do something for someone. Connect with someone. Help them. Help change this world. Like, we can do that by connecting and loving.
There's a lot of resources out there.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can't find anybody immediately to connect with yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Connect with your higher self, right? And then go out there and connect with others. I'm just super grateful that you came into our lives, Maui. You've taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys. I love you guys. I love
you too, man.
Being part of the family.
It's a good family to be a part of, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Our pleasure.
Yeah. I love you.
I love you guys too.
Love you, man. Thanks, friends. See you on the next episode.